Hello, everybody, and welcome to Just Between Us Girls. I am your host,
Hello.
Lady Kim Sims. And if this is your first time joining us, we say welcome. Many have asked the question, what is Just Between Us Girls? Just Between Us Girls is a television show, it's a podcast, it's a support group, and a sisterhood all rolled up into one. We believe that every girl needs a group of friends, girlfriends, women, aunties, and nieces where they can talk about anything and everything in a safe, non judgmental way. And J Bug is just that tribe. We will laugh together, we will learn together, and maybe sometimes even cry together. But what we will do always is be honest, transparent, and respectful. So we ask that you sit back, get comfortable, and get those fingers ready because we have a lot to talk about on tonight. We welcome your comments and we encourage your participation. But before we get started, we like to introduce you to and say hello to my amazing co host. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. She is Miss Positivity herself. Hello, Miss Janice Millhouse.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Janice.
She's smart, sassy, and classy. Good evening, Miss Charlotte Taylor.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Yay.
She's the PK kid herself, and she'll get you straight and turn around and love all on you. Welcome, Miss Angela Davis Vernon.
Good evening, everybody.
She's our free thinking millennial that keeps us all straight and in check. Good evening, Miss Deanna V. Williams.
Hey,
Now, we are missing one of our little J Bugs tonight, Miss Funny Hype Girl, Miss Mona Jackson, but she'll be back. But we have a special treat tonight. We have another sassy, classy, free thinking millennial on the panel, Miss Renee Tarpland. Welcome, Renee. All right, ladies of J Bug, let's get it started. Okay, J Bug, can we talk? Okay,
Yes.
on
Yes.
tonight's episode of Just Between Us Girls, we are talking about dating with kids.
Mm.
Dating with kids. Lord Jesus. There have been many movies about this subject, whether it's dating with kids as a single parent or dating with kids as a divorcee. Each have presented its own set of challenges. I remember the movie The Parent Trap. with Lindsay Lohan, where
Mhm.
they were identical twins, Annie and Hallie, and they were separated at birth and each raised by one of their biological parents. And they later discovered each other for the first time at summer camp, and they made this plan to bring their wayward parents back together. The only problem with that plan is that they learned that their father had a new young girlfriend whom they labeled as a child hating gold digger. Okay? Not a child hate, no gold digger. To whom he intended to propose. So this really gets the girls going, and they hatch a plan that ultimately exposes that girlfriend as the child hater she is. So
Yeah.
okay, but
Oh,
when she went back to the father and gave him an ultimatum that he had to choose between them or her,
mm.
he was like, okay, you got to
It's
go.
my
I can't
kids.
choose my two. There's another movie with Will Ferrell. I just realized I messed up my notes. It's called what was
Daddy's
the other
home.
one?
Daddy's home.
Daddy's Home, where Will Ferrell played this mild mannered stepfather, and he vies for the attention of his wife's children when their biological father, who was played by Mark Wahlberg, returns and does everything in his power to break up the newlyweds by suddenly being present again in his children's lives. The stepfather feels intimidated by this, and he finds himself competing with the biological dad to win over the affection of his children. Oh, how many times have these two scenarios played out and continue to play out in the lives of so many single and divorced parents? This brings me, J Bugs, to my first question for the J Bug ladies and for the listeners. How difficult is it to date with kids?
Wow.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, everybody got quiet.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I can only go by my past, because now that ship has sailed. But when I was single and had kids, it was hard dating with kids. For I mean, if it wasn't trying to find a babysitter so you could date, or then going through the vetting process of who was even worthy of meeting my kids, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was difficult. And there were very few that I allowed my kids to meet. So like now with my kids as grown kids, and he would have conversations, and I mentioned someone. They was like, "Who is that?" I said, "Because you didn't get to meet him, because everybody didn't get that opportunity to meet my kids." But I did find that when I
Mm-hmm.
did allow them to meet my kids and it did not work out, I went through guilt, because I was like, I exposed my kids to someone that, and it didn't work out. Now here I am. So then I had to play these tricks with myself. Okay, is it going to be okay for me to introduce them to another person? Because I don't want them to think their mama, out here loose the goose and stuff. So
oh, you
it was a lot of things that was going through my mind at that time. It was hard dating with kids. I mean, even now that my kids are older and I'm married, they still feel like they have an opinion, and they have a vote in my personal life. I'm like, no. But yeah, it was hard. So I just imagine now with kids having more access to technology and being more vocal, being able to have more vocal conversations with their parents that I wasn't allowed and didn't allow my kids to have. I can just imagine now that it's even harder as a single parent to date with
Yeah.
with kids.
well,
It
when
most
my
certainly.
All right,
It's
other ladies, chime in.
It
And my
most certainly is because I know I like you said, Angie, kids are more vocal and my kids are always like, especially my oldest son, I'm not even going nowhere. I'm just going out. Where you finna go? You finna go somewhere with somebody? I get questioned to the bill. And I'm like, what? Who you talking to? It's always that. And even when I'm just going to work, who you looking for good for at work? This is all the kids. And so I'm like, I'm not even going anywhere, but I can only imagine if I was going out with someone. But on a serious note, it is difficult because, I've seen so many instances where, well, I've gotten it wrong before. But even in that instance, I'm like, look, now, you have to be so careful because I look at like my daughters, they are going to do, in when they get older, like they see me do. And I want them, to be more respectful of. And I know people are like, well, they're kids, you don't got to be respectful of them, but you do,
yeah,
and I don't want them forming, opinions and things like that about what they see me do, but I want them to go about their dating when they have children because it's inevitable. I want them to go about it, where they don't expose their children to just any and everybody. Because not only do we make an attachment with a person, children make an attachment too. And the thing is that we may be going, like we may go on and, move on. But then the children, they form a different attachment, especially if the person is, communicating with them, or if you bring the person in and they start spending time with them. And it's just like a regular parent or anybody that a child loves, it's like you're ripping something away from them. And if
yeah,
you can imagine doing that over and over and over again, now you got a child who's going through just as much stress in
yeah,
relationships by way of your relationships as you. So I try to be a lot more cognizant. Because I feel like, and I question myself sometimes, like, when I do find somebody that I do we'll start progressing towards getting more serious and things like that. I still want to make sure that I wait and I play it right, with them, because I'm dating them, but it's also, I have to eventually include my children. So I want to make sure that, like I said, that they see me go about it well and not just be exposing them to everybody who I'm exposed to.
right.
Amen.
Well, my
So I
son,
want to ask the question, lady.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Janice.
My sons were such protectors of me, early on. Nobody was good enough. What are you looking at? Why is he, even at church? So if a man um, came and sat by me, my sons would come and scooch in between us and wiggle their way in. I was like, okay, no, no, Dolo, you can't talk to his mama. But dating with kids, for me personally, I was left with
Mm-hmm.
3 kids, and I never felt like I was at the top of the totem pole where it came to a man wanting to take on a woman and children, 3 children. So, I never, in our culture, in the white community, white men will see a woman struggling with her children and rush in like Superman to save the day because those children need a father.
So what you
Mm-hmm.
saying, Janice?
And it just hasn't been the
I
case.
think she made it plain.
Hasn't been the
Yeah.
case for me in our community. And the second part of that is I had a daughter, or I have a daughter, but at that time,
Mm-hmm.
she's a pretty girl, whatever. I don't know if a guy coming to see me is looking at me and my daughter, or is trying to make moves on my daughter behind my back, so I had all these things,
Ooh,
all
yeah,
that
that's a whole
trauma.
different show.
I had all that trauma I was dealing
Mhm.
with. So,
Mm.
I dated when
So,
I
so
could. If
ladies,
I didn't.
so should you, if you decide you want to date, should you sit down and have a conversation with your children before you start dating? Do you feel like you owe them that? Renee?
Honestly, I don't feel like I owe them an explanation before I date. However, the type who I am, I will have a conversation with my son once I start dating if I see that it's serious. And the only reason why I
Yeah.
don't think that is
Mm-hmm.
important before because that person may not be somebody that I'm really gonna date. I'm just, testing the waters. But if in fact I do find
Mm-hmm.
someone that is worthy of dating and continuing on with a serious relationship, then yes, I will sit down with my son and have a discussion. But he gonna ask anyway. If he see anything different, I'm going out. I'm doing this. I'm talking on the phone. Who is that? Who, what, when, where, and why?
Yep,
So
yep.
I get that already now, and it's kind of difficult at times to date with children, but I guess you just have to maneuver through the best way you can. And if it's right, everything is just gonna fall in place anyway.
Yeah.
You know, Renee, I agree. Like, cause with my children, they're vocal. Like it's just been us for so long, so they're pretty adamant about like we doing good by ourselves. We don't need nobody coming in
I
here.
don't
We
need
good.
So
Okay, don't be nobody else.
we don't need
They
nobody coming
closed the
in.
borders.
It's
They
totally
closed the borders like Canada.
Right. So I've actually had to have the conversation like, okay, eventually mommy is going to be out in the dating pool.
yeah.
exactly.
And
Well, see, I
you
have it
know,
different.
Right.
because they don't understand, baby, you gonna get 18, you're gonna think you're gonna leave, and then
Right.
I'm gonna be sitting here waiting on you to
That's it.
call, and you're
Right.
gonna probably have your boyfriend and you're gonna have your girlfriend, and I'm just gonna be sitting here by myself.
Well, my
Exactly.
son, he wants me today. And I think it's because he's an only child.
Mhm,
He wants a sibling, and
Mm-hmm.
he wants
mhm.
me to get out there. When are you gonna go dating? Can you take me somewhere so you can go on a date? I get all of that. It's the opposite for me. He's ready for the dating for me.
Wow.
Uh,
It's funny. Is I have a son, and for some reason, like after I got divorced, it was just he and I for a long time, and so they are very, very protective. I tried to
Mhm.
date, and it was like either I didn't, it got to the point where I thought it was something serious, but either I didn't like something or he didn't like something. We were never on the same page, you know. And I was like, after a while, I just gave up. I just said, no more dating for me. Mine is a different situation, Norma Toppling. Thank God for Norma Toppling. I'll still be single. Okay, so the next thing I want to ask is, how do you handle children who are particularly close to the other parent and does not want you to date anybody because they don't feel like you can replace? They feel like you're trying to replace that other parent. How do you get? What do you ladies think about that?
Thank God I don't have to deal with that.
Well, I
I
did.
didn't. I didn't have to deal with it either because my children didn't like their daddy. So
Oh,
well, I'm gonna tell y'all. One of my children, my youngest daughter, she a couple of months ago she voiced the reason why she didn't want me to have anybody is because I mean she's pretty much like, well, I don't want nobody to replace my dad, but I'm like, babe. I had to have a conversation with baby. Your he's not coming back in this house. We divorced, and I was a little less harsh, but I'm just saying for the purpose of this show, yeah,
Gotcha.
but I was like, mommy and daddy, we are divorced. Mommy
Done.
and daddy are not getting back together, and because they was like, she was like, I don't need a stepdaddy, I don't need anybody. I just had to have that conversation. And kids can understand a lot more than we think they can understand. But
Hmm.
I like to
Hmm.
let my children feel like their opinions do matter, and kind of talk them through things rather than just force it on them. Because I think that it will actually go over a little bit better, because they do. they don't want their parent to be replaced, and then they don't really want nobody else telling them what to do
Right.
either. They you get this
Yeah,
like,
that's
he ain't
true.
my daddy, he ain't my mama, things like that. Yeah.
Well, in
Girl,
my case, my husband passed away. So, my sons weren't particular about somebody trying to replace their daddy. And it wasn't until men in my sons' lives spoke to them about allowing your mom to be sought after, allowing your mom to go out. Your mom is an attractive woman. Let a man see if, my
Yeah.
thing was I never wanted to do any of this parenting stuff by myself. I never signed up to be a
A
single
whole
parent.
mom.
I don't think so
And
either. None of us do.
believe
None of us do.
I believe that children need the perspective of both parents,
Yes.
or the perspective of both male and female in their growing and in their nurturing. I feel like that's very valuable, because in the formative years, children are going through so much, and teenagers rebel. I mean, for me, I wanted someone to help me, help them.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know it all. I still don't know it all. By the grace of God, we've gotten this far. We beat some insurmountable odds, it
Mhm.
seems. But yeah, nobody's gonna replace your daddy. But my
Well,
mama needs something. You know, when y'all
And then
gone and leave me, I
mama
don't want
needs
it to
daddy,
be
right?
just me and the cat. I don't want it to be just me and the cat.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, my child had a hard time, and because he always had the notion that my dad and my mom were gonna get back together.
Mhm.
And as he got older, I mean, this was years. It took me, I ain't gonna say it took me that long, but it was 8 years between the time that I divorced till I got remarried. So I had time to heal. I had time to, all of that. But even all that time for me, my son still, in his mind, felt that there was a chance that mom and dad would get back together. And he was older, and I had to sit down and tell him, look, you know, we're not going to get back together. We are always be family, and that's one of the things I have to applaud my ex-husband on. Is he always say that we're family no matter what, and there's a respect, a mutual respect between me and him and his fiance and him with my husband. So, but it was baby steps. It took us a while to get there, but I was like, son, no, me and daddy ain't getting back together.
Right.
Okay. So it
Mhm.
took us a minute. So I did have to go through that explanation, and because in his mind he always wanted that.
Yeah, I think
So
all kids want that. I mean, no
they
matter
did.
what the situation is. Yeah, I think they all want that. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a conversation with one of my adult kids. It's been some years ago, and it's so funny because I never thought that was anything that he wanted or felt. And when we had this conversation, and he was an adult, I had found that that had been something that was, he had desired. It's for his dad and I to reunite, and and to be this happy family, and and live happily ever after. But I think every kid secretly wants that, no matter what, no matter what the situation is or the reality is, they just secretly want their parents to be together. Um, you know, um,
Hmm.
you just you have to have honest and candid conversations with your kids, and when they ask questions, be prepared for some of those hard questions, some of those hard topics,
Ooh, yes.
and be open, even sometimes when it pierces you, sometimes when they seem to be a little judgmental about why you're not with their dad, or the mom or whatever, because they have their judgments and their opinions. Be open and open-minded, and willing to have that conversation with them, and not take it, just understand this. It's hard to navigate as an adult, separating from spouses. So just imagine what kids go through trying to navigate it and understand it. So you got to have
Right.
a little empathy even when they pierce you, because I mean I had some piercing conversations with my kids and I was like, "Ooh, where that come from?"
Oh, me too.
So
Well, I know. Wasn't ready for that.
but I'm like, okay, I just had to take a moment, take a deep breath and say, you know what, who? And this is something I tell people all the time. And I think this is what we forget in life, not just even with relationships, but anything that we experience. When you're having an experience, someone else is having an experience with your experience.
Yeah.
See, your experience and how
Mm,
you've navigated it or even absorbed it is not the way they've navigated it and absorbed the information. So their experience, although you guys were in the same household and may have gone through some of the same things, their experience is different than what yours is. So,
Yeah.
and that's how I tend to, to look at it with my kids when we have those conversations. Although I tend to want to get on the defense and say, oh, no, it wasn't that. Then I have to say, you know what? They had an experience with my experience.
right. So I want
Angie,
to
that's a
ask,
wonderful
ladies,
way to look at it.
Yeah.
that is a very good way of looking at it, and very you explained that perfectly. I like that, Angie. So, is there a time frame? Like I said, it was 8 years after I divorced, before I got remarried. Is there a particular time frame you think you should wait after either a divorce or a serious breakup before you begin to date again,
I think it's
considering the
dependent.
kids are
I think it's
involved?
dependent upon your it depends on the person. Sometimes, well, especially when you're dealing, when you have children, I think that it's not necessarily a time frame, but you should be
Hmm.
able to gauge as a parent what you're ready for and what your children are ready for as well.
Hmm.
Especially you don't ever know, the person after the breakup or divorce may be the one, and but you have to really be discerning about what you're able to take on as well, because it can be damaging, to not only you but to the children if they see you, experience a heartbreak right after a heartbreak, and things like that. So I think that you should be discerning. You should know your children, what they're able to handle. Like I said, previous question, a couple of previous questions ago, they are going along, with your experience as well. But it would be so irresponsible, to just bring somebody in there and they just like wait, because they know it's a breakup too. They know the other guy ain't there no more,
Right, right, right.
and see this new guy. But I think that, as women, we have to start trying to, take care of our mental and emotional health. I know that a lot of times people think that, because I've heard it before, but then I've seen it work and it not be that way. People say, oh, well, you need to be healed completely and things like this, and, or whatever. But sometimes I've seen it work where people aren't, but the person that comes actually helps them walk out the rest of their healing. There's some things that you just won't
Hmm.
be healed from until you get into another relationship, because it starts pulling those layers off things that you may have buried, you think that you have dealt with. So, I don't really think that it's a time frame. I think that the biggest thing and concern of mine would be, are my children, or am I ready to walk this thing out again, with dating.
Yeah. Well, I was on the other side of the spectrum with that. When my mom passed, my dad had started to date again, girl. Whew. And and I was in my 40s, and honey, that was devastating.
Let
It was
daddy have a life,
that
Angie.
was
Let daddy have a life.
devastating. And I was in my 40s, and I'm like, girl, it was the hardest thing for me to adjust to. So, and my dad, it was like maybe, well, when he decided to marry, it was like a year after my mom had died, but he had been seeing her for some time. And I say this, and I hope people don't get me wrong with this, but one thing that experience taught me, and watching my dad move on, is that life goes on. Life goes on, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a breakup, whether it is someone dies. Life goes on. There's not a time you can stop and wait, and and wait for the opportune time, or the when you think everybody's ready, and it may never be that time because
Never married.
okay, now my mom's been deceased now, 13, 14 years, and I'm still devastated. So it would never be the right
Never
time for
be.
him to go on and do that. Although now I'm better and I've adjusted to some things, but just honestly saying and just being honest, if I just had to tell you right now, it would never be the right time. I would never be ready for him to move on to that next relationship. And I was in my 40s when my mom died. So I just think
So,
that when life happens, it happens, and you have to just move with life. You
yeah.
can't wait, and you got to, like Deanna said, be discerning. Be prayerful and ask God to direct you first of all, and when it's right, you'll know it. And I tell people now how I know when things are right. There's just a certain peace that comes over on me when I make decisions or decide to do things. When it's right, it's just a peace. If you're conflicted, then there's something not right, because God is not the author of confusion. So when it's right, you'll know it. But I don't think there's a specific time frame that you should wait. It's just when things happen, just be open for love. Be open to move on. Be open to live, because life moves on. People,
Mhm.
you just have to be willing to live.
Well, I've been widowed for 17 years now. So, I'm like, Lord have mercy. Can this man come on through while I can still lift a leg? Come on. Come on.
Ooh,
Come on. Oh,
Oh Lord Jesus!
Welcome to Just Between Us Girls.
there it is.
We have candid conversations. Okay.
Oh.
So, ladies, let's kind of shift the gears a little bit. Should your ex or your children's father or mother be informed that you are now dating or considering dating? Does he or she have the right to know who is around his or her kids?
ooh.
I'm gonna throw that out there. Just sit that
Well,
right
me
there on the table.
personally,
Come on, Renee.
I don't feel like I should explain anything to an ex. You're an ex for a reason.
Uh oh.
Come
However,
on.
however, I do understand that we do have a child together. So
Hmm.
if in fact that this new relationship is becoming serious, then I don't mind having a conversation, but it is not a necessity because you had it and you did what you did to not have it. So at
Okay.
this
Come on.
point, I'm not explaining nothing to you. That's your fault. And life goes on. What's the difference? Life goes on.
Life goes on.
Uh,
So Renee, what if it was the flip side? What if he was dating somebody else that was going to be around your child?
Well, I honestly can say I am not like a lot of women because I don't like to give all of that extra energy into who you dating and why you got. I ain't got time for all of that. I
Hmm.
have to respect you and trust you enough to know that when you
Yes.
have your child, you're not going to do anything that's going to hurt or harm our child. And that's the same respect that I would want to
That
receive
you
in
want.
return.
great.
Right.
Amen. Amen.
Come
That
on,
is
Renee. You better come with it, girl.
And
Y'all
you know
say this
something?
Mike.
You know what, Renee? I'm with you on that. I feel like, listen, you an ex. I don't have to explain anything to you. You do what you do down that way, and I do what I do this way,
Here.
and we good. But
Okay.
I will say that with my oldest daughter's father, he really kept me in the loop with certain things and he just did that because he would be getting her and things, and sometimes his girlfriend would be over there or what have you. But he even went as far as to if he may call me and they might be over there, the girlfriend in the background, hey girl, because they know I don't want him.
You're right, right.
But I'm saying, when I
That's
say
when it
they,
works.
but it was one woman, which is now his wife. So he did that because he was pursued, they were engaged and things like that. But I think that it even made it better because now, we see each other and she like, hey girl, we family, and it takes maturity,
It does.
from, and which sometimes we just don't have as women. We don't have that maturity. But I'm comfortable because and but the thing is I allow her, me as being the mother of the child that we share, I feel a responsibility to make her feel comfortable
Yeah.
with, I don't want him, you his wife, I respect you as his wife, we have an understanding when it comes to the daughter, you her stepmother, she can call you mother. I'm not threatened by any of that because at the end of the day, I don't want you, needing or feeling like you have to mistreat my daughter because you got some vendetta against me.
Absolutely.
So we gonna keep it cool, calm, and collective. I'm gonna stay on this side, and until I hear or feel like you're doing something to, or my daughter say like, "Mom, she was just," but I'm an adult enough to where I can have a conversation. But I did not require him to tell me who he has because, like Renee says, I should be able to trust. I mean, are not together, but we were dealing, with each other. But I should be able to trust your judgment, and be able to pray even over my child that God is not going to allow anything to happen to her. And if anything, if it got to that point, then I would know before anything transpires. But I have to trust trust his parenting, just like he has to trust mine to an extent. Because I'm the mama, it doesn't make me any different from me being the mama, him being the daddy. He has to, trust my decisions that I make as to any male that I bring around his daughter. So it's a two-way street.
Right.
Now, I can be transparent though. I can say I had my son when I was about 10, 11 years younger, and at a young age, young girls having kids is like, I ain't with all of that. But it comes
Mhm.
along with maturity and growth.
Yes.
Grow and
Yes.
understand certain things. You understand that, look, y'all have a child. He love his child. He not gonna do anything to hurt the child, so that you can move on, and so can he. Now, there are certain things that I do want to be informed on if
Come on,
the
Renee.
child is with the other parent. For an example, I'm gonna just use an example that I had years ago. He had him and he took him to get a haircut. It's certain things that I just don't like, because if I'm used to doing a certain thing as the mother, then yes, I want to be informed on. I don't care about no other female, but certain things I have to. I just feel like I have to know, you know, in order for me to be okay. But as far as another woman that you're dating or whoever, I just trust you enough to know that you're gonna do right, and I'm gonna be okay, and you got to feel the same.
Well,
So
here's
Yeah.
another
you
part of
walk
that. Here's
you
another
walk
part of it.
right into my next question, James. I'm gonna
Okay.
let you come. Is where's the line drawn when dating someone with kids?
Okay.
Like, what should you do or not do? I'm thinking. I went back to when I was younger in
Mhm.
that crazy stage, and I remember I was dating a guy. I didn't have kids, but I dated somebody with children,
Hmm.
and it was like I was like afraid to comb the little girl's hair. It was
Mhm.
certain things that I just wouldn't touch because the mothers were very particular about certain things.
Right.
So Jan, I want you to jump in. Where's the line drawn when you're dating someone with kids? What should you do and what should you not do?
Well, what I wanted to say was sometimes, just like in the Parent Trap, where the girlfriend was manipulative,
Hmm.
sometimes women, when they see that the man has had a child with another woman, they got some thought that he still wants to be with her in some way,
Hmm.
or that door is not completely closed, or they could pick back up. So you have to mature to a level where you're going to trust them to do the right thing by the child.
Right.
Never mind me, but love your child enough to do the
Hmm.
right thing. And then, if the woman or the man is manipulating you or trying to manipulate your children, that's going to show at some point. It's going to show. It's going to show itself.
Right.
And you just do what's best for you and the child or the children.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I, I, well, I have grandkids. So my son and his kid's mother are not together. Never have been married, but they have these two kids. She actually got into a relationship while she was carrying the second child,
Hmm.
and so this guy's been in her life since she was pregnant with my second granddaughter. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, he's a good guy. I don't have to worry about him putting his hands on my girls. I don't have those worries. But she, for some reason, and they were in this long term relationship for a long time, and she had these kids calling this man stepdaddy, and I just didn't like that. I was like, girl, that's not they stepdaddy. That's your boyfriend. Y'all are not married. She just could not get that. And these kids coming, that's my stepdad. I'm like, that's not your stepdaddy. Then she played this game, oh, they just jealous and this, that, and other. So it takes a lot of maturity when you have kids and you're dating and you're creating these extended families and relationships, you know, um, it just was never a good mix. It was just always so much contention because she just would not listen or even take in consideration how we felt, not just me as a grandmother, even my son as the father, you know um just never would take in consideration, still don't. It's just been an uphill battle. And she and the guy now are married. They got married about a year ago, which I'm happy for them. But for a long time, it just was no lines. There were no rules. There were no boundaries. There was nothing. And here we are. We're like, hey, this is not good. And now that the kids are older, they're 13 and 15. It's a lot of confusion because the foundation was not established correctly in the beginning. So there's a lot of confusion. We just always in contention. I can't say anything without them going back. Mama, my grandmama said, and yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like, girl, but this is the atmosphere that has been created
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
because there were no boundaries. There were no lines drawn or no rules set. So it's just crazy. So I do recommend people, if you're going to date and have relationships and you have step kids, please be clear on your boundaries and your lines and what role is to be played. Do not feel like you have to diminish one person's role to increase another person's role in your life. No, we have to be respectful. We have to be respectful. Like Deanna said, you have to respect the position that person is in that child's life, and not feel threatened. Because if they were to be together, they would be together. So they're not together for a reason. So there's no reason to anybody to fear the joining of those two ever again, because it didn't work. But again, there should be some clear lines, some clear boundaries, some clear rules when it comes to developing relationships with I don't like, Steve Harvey said he don't like to call them step kids, but your extended kids, or your extended family,
Bonus.
Bonus family.
or your bonus family.
Or just your kids.
Your
Right.
You know,
kids, yeah.
I have, because I'm a mother and I didn't quite understand it when I was single with no children. I had all the advice in the world. Didn't know. But when I became a parent, I realized a couple of things. I had to go back and apologize to a couple of my girlfriends who had kids. But one of the things that I try to do, and merging families is not easy, but I
Hmm.
try to respect the other parent. Like my children, who I call my children, not my stepchildren, not my bonus children. I have children on both sides, with my ex and with my current, and mine, with my only biological. And so I'm not trying to be their mother. I'm not trying to take the place of their mother. I
Right.
am their mother, but I'm not trying to take the place of their mother. I'm
Gotcha.
also not just trying to be their friend either,
Right.
Right.
because I do have to impart some kind of motherly advice and wisdom to them. But I never, and I always try to tell them, because every child has a season or a time when they mad at their mama. They don't like them. They make me sick. My dad I don't like. And the thing is you can't get caught up into that.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, that's still your mother. That's
Yeah.
all. I always say that. That's still your mother, regardless of how you feel. That's still your mother because it'll backfire on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you be in the middle of it. And see, I don't play them games because I'm mama. I'm the other. I'm the bonus mama. Let's put it that way. And so I'm not gonna get caught up into those little games. I'm here for you. I'll give you advice, but I'm not trying to take the place of your mother. I'm
Yeah.
not trying. We're not trying to take the place of your father. You
Yeah.
know. So I want to ask.
And
Go ahead. Go ahead, Deanna.
oh no, go ahead. I was just gonna say that at this point in my life, I probably wouldn't be so quick to be all in all to a person's children that I'm dating. I feel like that's a role that should be reserved for probably once after you have gotten married. Just
Mhm.
because and I took on that role, but see, there was an understanding that I had to be because we have to understand that we're not there to take the place of, but we're there to be a complement to.
Right.
So, I'm really working hand in hand with this other person, because there were areas when I was married that my ex-husband, he didn't know what to do. And so a lot of times I was left up being the communicating piece, to the mother to help make her job easier. And even now that I'm divorced, the mother still trusts, like, because I still get my bonus baby. She calls me mama. If she's
Mhm.
talking to her mama, she'd be like, "Mom on the phone talking to my mama." But we have that understanding that she knows that I'm not going to overstep her. A lot of times we try to overstep what the parents, the mother said, and the
Mhm.
children they're aware of that. They can be like, "Okay, my mama said," because they'll try to play their role. They'll try to
Oh
play
yeah, they'll try to play you.
but
Mhm.
she knows that what I'm always first like, what did your mama say? Did you ask your mama, mama, can I come over? Did you ask your mama? I'm not gonna say yes before I know what your mama said. I'm not gonna
Okay.
do before I know what your mama said. And
Yeah.
so they have to know that both sides are gonna communicate. It ain't gonna be no way you can play the, both sides. But I feel like we should not be so quick to step into certain roles. I know that, while you're dating, you may have instances where the guy may be like, "Hey, can we all get together?" But it'll just be just that. It'll just be that moment. We're going out and we having a good time. But I'm not gonna try to become in a role. Sometimes we step into roles before we actually have solidified that role.
Right.
I'm just not into that, right? Like
Yeah.
at this point in my life, I'm not ready. That's just like we try to be a wife before we are actually the wife. I'm not trying to be mama before I've actually become solidified in this role, to
Mhm.
try to build that bond. And we're gonna bond, but it's just gonna be like this. My dad's girlfriend, or whatever your dad told you that I am. We gonna that's not like that, but you
You're
get
the
what I'm saying.
special
Yeah,
friend.
yeah. I
Yeah.
ain't trying to be
That's my special friend.
Friend.
Right.
this auntie so and so right here.
Right. Right. How many
Deanna,
uncles do I have?
Deanna, I love what you said because for years I've always thought I'm not here to complicate a man's life. I'm here to complement.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know what
Amen.
I'm saying?
Amen.
So, and I thought when I lost my husband, I thought, well, that's it. I'm so in love. I'm still so in love with a dead man, y'all. Because
Mm.
I felt like God gave me the man of my dreams, and then you allowed him to be taken away from me. What?
Mm-hmm.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like if God takes something away, He's got something better for you.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, where's better? Can better
It's
come
coming.
on?
It's
Can he?
coming over yonder.
Can he do
Yeah.
double time? Can he get on over here? You know what I'm saying? Um, But a lot of times these kids have friends who are in homes where the mom has brought a man in, the man has molested the children. They're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with all kinds of trauma, even at that age. And they
Amen.
talk to one another. So,
Amen.
they might be sharing, well, my stepdaddy did this, and then when their mom is interested in seeing someone, they have that fear of, oh my God, the same thing that happened to my friend is going to happen to me. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff. So you got to be careful how you navigate that
Yes.
with your
Yeah.
kids and around your kids. I believe
Yes.
that, the kids don't necessarily have to know everything in the beginning. You need to feel this person out and see if he's even worthy of meeting your kids. Your kids are your gifts. They're your,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? You got to figure that out first and then navigate from there. So,
Mhm.
I want to read what Renee put up. She said, I would only deal with the adults, which is why it's important for you to have healthy communication in every area. Children shouldn't set up things that should be agreed between the adults. And I agree with you, Renee, but I'm gonna tell y'all something funny. So my son is 20 years old, an adult, grown. Okay, got hair on his face. All right. So his dad calls me and says, well, why didn't you tell me that Jaden is doing this and this and this and planning this and this and this? And I said, well, Jaden got a cell phone. Jaden is 20 years old, and Jaden can communicate. So your question should be to Jaden, why Jaden didn't tell you.
right.
But we're family, you're supposed to tell me. And I said, actually, I would have told him, but it just really slipped my mind. But I'm like, your son is grown.
Right. It's a
Okay.
difference. It's a
You
Good and
can
big
grown.
call
difference.
him
Is
and
an
ask him
11 year
why
old.
he didn't tell you.
Right.
So I think that's funny. But yeah, when they're younger, I agree with you, Renee.
Mhm.
There should be communication between the adults, and you
Yes.
don't want to put your children in the middle of
Absolutely.
that because that's very
Get a
a
phone.
hard place to be for
Yes.
them. I'm
Yes.
sure.
What's the operative word in that? Adult. Most
Right.
people don't know what being an adult is.
Right.
They are an adult age, but they don't know what being an adult is. So
They adult
uh,
Random phone call.
adultish.
What?
yeah, so
And I'm and I'm gonna tell
yeah.
you the reason why I can speak now is because I don't made all the mistakes.
Come on.
I don't
Hey,
did everything that I wasn't supposed to do.
hey.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I know better. Thank God, I've
Thank you.
grown a little
Yes.
bit, and I've gotten better at this. And me and his father and my husband and his fiance and my children are on. Some of us are on the same page, but some of us we working on it.
Well,
Okay.
well, honey, I'm trying to get on the same page in my 50s with my daddy's wife.
Jesus.
So
Oh,
Angie, this question is for you. What do you do when your children do not like the person you
Ooh.
are dating?
Well, you know what? And this is the God, the honest truth. When I first met her, I liked her. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be open minded. I was like, oh, we're gonna have this relationship. And it was after she married my dad that everything just completely changed. She did, what they say, a 180. I think she came into with six girls in my family, first of all, and I think she felt like she had to secure her position because we're all very strong-minded and strong-willed women. So she had to come in and be, I guess the HBIC,
Uh-oh.
and let us know. She had to let us know,
yeah.
Y'all sing.
I'm the HBIC now. Y'all need to go take a seat. So
Ah!
it was hard. It's still hard sometimes, and I'm big on communicating. So I feel like, honest and open dialogue is the way to go. So I would have these open and honest conversations with her. She and I and my dad, and it still would be like, girl, like pulling teeth. I'm like, you know what? It's just too hard. And one of the things was, she's never had kids. So I think it was just hard for her to accept
Mhm.
all of these girls, and be secure in her position. with my dad as his wife versus, it's not a competition. And I just told her recently, 285 got what, 5, 6, 7 lanes. Everybody got a lane. Just get in your
Okay.
car
Stay
and
in your
stay
lane.
in your lane, and we'll be fine. If everybody just learn to drive their car and be okay with their lane in their car, and not worry
Yes.
about the other person driving over here and what they got going on in their, we could get along just perfectly.
That's a whole nother show.
So, stay in your lane.
Stay in
You
your
know,
lane.
I don't know how I'll handle that, y'all, because I think I would have to ask them, like, you know, what's the reason why? My children again are very vocal, so I probably wouldn't have to ask them why. They probably be like, "Cause he blah 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 blah," But I think that that's something, in all seriousness, that we have to take into an account, because from even when children are little bitty babies, they know people who just ain't right, and
Right.
a
Yeah.
They
lot of
do.
times, we move forward with things when our children are the ones that's like, "Hey, moms, I
Mhm.
don't."
Slow it
But
down.
and I believe that the person that God actually has for you, the children, like He's already set them aside for that, and so your children will, will be open to them. But I think that if your children are like, I don't know. I think I would have to. It'll kind of give. I have to give it a side eye, because I don't want to be down. I did that before. I don't want to be years down the line, and then you start really seeing how people are and everything, and then by this time, again, we back here again where you done
Yeah.
introduced, because and
Invested.
I try to tell people all the time, when we dating, we are hopeful that the person that we are dating at the time is the one.
Right.
It's not all the time intentionally, and sometimes we miss those red flags.
Mhm.
And because I have missed those red flags before, I want to, make sure that the next time it's right. And but I want my children to be included. Now I know you do got children who just be saying they don't like people just because they think they got a choice. But I would again be discerning about, all right,
You
what is
just
it? And
doing
then
that.
I myself, with whatever they tell me, I'll start paying more attention to those things to see
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
I also recognize those things.
Shine a light on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you know what? I always had the opposite experience. I always the one that dated someone who didn't have kids, and I had the kids. So, I would meet these mothers, and how some mamas is about their son. Oh, she want him to take care of all them children, hers. They give me the side eye. They already done judged me, and and put me in a box, and it was hard for me, girl. I'm like, girl, I don't even know how to take care of my children. I take care of my own children,
Hey.
you know. So, but so that was always a big thing for me is dating. I never dated anybody with kids. I was always one with the kids and didn't have no children. And even they never get to meet my kids. Just knowing that I was a woman with kids, they was judging me. Oh, she need a man to take care of her children. Oh, she this, oh, this, she'll gold digger. Girl, bye. Most of the time, I was making more money than his son anyway, so I'm a
Lord.
gold digger.
Hello,
Most of
hello,
the time, I'm the one with the car. How I'm a gold digger. Most of the time, I'm the
hello.
one with my own place,
Oh,
but
He
I'm the
digging my
gold
he
digger.
digging my goal. He digging
So
his goal.
what?
oh,
I had it hard with these mamas, honey,
I
and
just
dating
had
their
one
sons and
fear.
having kids.
I just have
Renee,
one
you gotta
fear.
jump in.
I just have one fear of just dating, having children on both ends, my end and the
speak
opposite
Right.
end.
louder, Renee.
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear
Talk up
me?
a little
Yeah.
louder.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what just happened. But I just had a fear in the beginning. Um, but years ago, I used to always think that when you date with children, it's a fear that the best way to explain it is that if a male or female comes into a situation together, will that person love your child enough for it to be something and vice versa,
Mm,
Right.
right.
because you don't want to choose between the two, because at the end of the day I ain't leaving my child, if that
Right.
makes sense. So
Right.
that's just a fear sometimes. But as you grow and you mature and you learn, like you say, you just have to talk to your kids, let them know what's the up and up, and let's see how we can maneuver through this new
How we
this
can
new
maneuver
way
through.
of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell my children, look, trust me. And if you trust it, if I'm driving, I need y'all to just stay in. But if I drive this car into a ditch, at least all of us can get it out of the ditch.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, I'm gonna do the best
Mm,
I can. But if I drive this car into a ditch, we can all still work together and get us out of this mess. You know what I'm
out
saying?
of the ditch. Wow, good one, Jan.
I,
So
Yeah.
here's
I
my
would
last.
I'm actually open to dating someone with kids, because I be gauging y'all. I ain't even gonna lie. I want to see how you are and interact with your children,
Right.
so that I can gauge
Yes,
how you will interact. Because it's kind of sketchy when you got somebody. Because I think I was just telling somebody the other day, like if I'm dating, so I need you to come in and be ready to get things on one accord. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I can't really gauge your ability to be able to bring things together if I don't see you interacting with it. It's so hard because it's like, they'll kind of hold back a little bit. They'll, I think a person that has children will be more willing to jump in and just be like, hey, let's get this thing together.
Right. Right.
And rather than me trying to teach somebody that
Right.
doesn't have any kids how to, handle and deal with certain situations, they would be able to understand some of the situations that I have, or would have happened with my children because they were once children. But I really, really, really desire somebody that has that experience and possibly be walking out that experience right now, because these children now are much different than when we were children. You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
I would
Oh,
love for somebody to have, a Gen Z kid or something like that, or Gen Z kid who knows how to, catch up with what these kids doing. And then plus on top of that, I really ain't trying to have no more. So I just want us to just be a blended, nice, happy family, and let's just go with that.
So Charla,
Yeah.
being the one person on the panel that doesn't have kids, how do you feel about dating someone with children?
So I'm just gonna say dating is hard, period, with
Yes.
anybody, with anyone. But then having children, there's a different level of difficulty. And the reason I say that is because I have dated a man who had children, and the older they are, the easier it is to date them. But if they have small children, that's when sometimes it becomes problematic, because then you have to deal with the other parent. And I've seen a lot of comments on here. I have boundaries and I stay in my own lane and I know my role. So
Yes.
if I never meet the child, if we're just dating and we're not really serious, I'm okay with that, because
Okay.
I don't want the child to come into something and then a couple of months later, then I'm not there, because
Yeah.
right.
you're just trying to fill out their parent anyway that
Right.
you're dating. I'm just trying to fill out their dad. So I'm just trying to figure out if it's going to work. So if I don't meet your child, I'm okay with that. And sometimes I think that if I say that, they become offended because they think that I don't want to be a part of their child's life. But that's not the reason I'm saying it. I'm saying it
Right.
because I don't want to get attached to your child, and I don't want your child to get attached
Get
to me,
attached to
and
you.
we don't make it past month number 2.
Right.
Right.
Um, and I have been in a situation where I date someone long term, and it was easier for me to blend the kids once I met their mom, and they understood that was for the older kids, but for the smaller child, their mom, that child's mom, we never met.
Hmm.
And it was always difficult with that parent and with that child, like time spent and everything. So like I said, it gets easier with the age of the child. And then it's also one of those situations where the other parent has to be open and upfront and honest with themselves to to say, hey, me and this person may not ever get back together. It might be time for me to let them go.
Right.
So I've been in several situations, and I'm okay with anyone who doesn't want children. I'm okay with someone who wants kids, although I personally don't want any, to have any. But that's just my personal opinion. But I'm not I'm open to adoption or anything like that, but I just don't want to physically have children. But other than that, I just say that it depends on the person that you're dating,
Yeah.
Right.
and how open they are and how open the other person is as well.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
perspective. All right, lady. Last question. Just gonna throw this one on out here. Now you've dated. That's supposed to be dated and moved into a serious commitment and are married. Should your new husband, love, boo, discipline your children? How do you feel about that?
There's levels of discipline. I mean, you know, um,
Renee, why you looking? Renee, like, no.
No, 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 no. I don't.
Should they
I
just?
mean, there
And
has
what?
to be
And to
some
what
type of
degree?
there has to be some type of level of being able to discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there should be again clear conversations and understanding about that you cannot expect a man to be in your house with your children and not be able to say anything to them kids. That's
Absolutely.
just not, it's not logical, it's not respectful. I mean, because you're saying that you're okay. It's okay for you to pay my light bill, my gas bill, and feed
Right.
these children,
But you
but you
can't
can't
say that
say
about
you
children.
can't say nothing to
True.
them.
Bad.
That's not first and foremost. So there's levels of discipline. I think when you get to a certain level, then that person should step back and let the parent or parents deal with that. That level when you're talking about when I guess a lot of people don't believe in whooping kids, but I came from that era where we whipped kids. So when you start about talking about spanking and stuff like that, maybe that should be done by the biological parent or parents, but there should be a role in that non-custodial parent. He or she should be able to play a role in the discipline process, because it's just about respect, and you got to teach your kids that they can't expect to live in a household with someone and not he or she can't say anything to them. That's just not logical. That's not respectful. So I don't know. That's just my take
I
on it.
That's a conversation that you should have with your spouse before, because that is an important part of being in a blended family. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as a parent that's raising a son,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that it's only so much that a mother can teach
Can
her son,
do.
and you have to have a male's perspective in any situation when you are dating and you have a
Absolutely.
male child. If the father of the child is not present as
Mm-hmm.
they should be. Now I do agree, like I said, conversations first, but I don't think any male coming in now, and then like we said earlier, it depends on the age as well. So if you have a smaller child, that's, to me, that's a given. You're gonna have to say something to that child because they're still growing, just as well as you have to say something to an older child. Me
Mm-hmm.
personally, I have an 11-year-old. So if I'm dating someone, that's a conversation that I want to personally have before because by the time we done got to a marriage, something should have already clicked. We finna be married. This is a
Right.
lifelong journey. So it's
Right.
just something that just has to be discussed first. And then everybody, since we're blending the family, we need to blend it all. Like she said, if he can come in paying bills, why can't he say something to the child and vice versa? So
Yeah,
Right.
man.
Right.
Well, we're living in a society now that parents now don't want you to say nothing to their kids, period.
oh,
Whether you're a stepdad,
Whoever you
stepmama,
are.
whoever, they got a problem. It's no more of a village raising kids anymore. People have a problem. I mean, I've had several instances, especially in church. Girl, these people ready to fight because you said something to their child, told them to sit. You ain't said nothing out of the way other than you need to sit down, or don't talk so loud. And they ready to fight. They don't want you to say nothing to their kids. So we got to start getting honest with ourselves about where we are as parents when it comes to disciplining our kids. That's why the kids running amok now, because they don't want nobody to say nothing to them. They don't want the police. They don't want the grandmom. They don't want the granddad. They don't want the aunties or anybody. They just got a problem with it. I don't know where that switch changed, but it changed somewhere, because it didn't used to be like that. I know, honey, the lady up the street used to compete to discipline me, and come down and then tell your mama, and then
and
your
she
mama
gonna
gonna
do
do
something.
something.
And
Right.
she
So
did.
I don't know
That's
what
true.
happened within the last 20 or 30 years that changed, but now kids, They'll tell you, you ain't my mama. You can't tell me what to do. You
I
know,
be thinking those are games that them kids be playing too.
Yep.
you
Yep.
They
think it's
playing
games.
games.
My grandkids say that, and I'm like, girl, if you don't hush, do you not
Okay.
know who I am? I will put my foot in your. I said, I don't want to go to jail, but I will be done hurt you, little girl. But that's because their parents have allowed them. I'm like, I'm your grandmama. You don't talk to me like I'm your cousin.
Right.
Right.
But
Wow.
again, it's just a difference in the way they parent now. I'm like, where did these children come from? Where did these
Yeah.
parents come from? Did you fall and hit your head on something? Forgot that children are children. Children that need to stay in a child's place.
Child's
Right.
You
place.
don't have conversations with your child that about their daddy. That like, I don't understand this stuff. But
Mm,
and again, it makes it hard to
yeah.
discipline kids, whether you're a grandparent, whether you're auntie or whatever, because you got parents now that just don't have any kind of skills in being parents and how to establish those boundaries with their
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Most
I always wanted a man to discipline my sons or my
They
children
need it. They
with
need it.
love, because men have a certain way talking to boys, to get them to the next level. They speak a different language.
Right. They
You know what I'm
respect it.
saying? We as mothers, we're more nurturing, and but these boys need a man to get in their behind. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But do it in love. Don't
Yeah.
just abuse my child.
Mhm.
No,
And
just do it in love.
I'm not opposed to someone coming in and disciplining my children if we've gotten to that committed point or married. However, I do have an expectation that you learn their different the way that because you don't discipline every child the same.
Same
Right.
way.
So
That's
I
true.
would expect him to be observant of, firstly, probably
Right.
how I discipline them. And then we have a conversation about, like, he may be like, babe, look, you're going to have to put the hammer down a little bit more, blah, blah, blah. Or because I'm inviting, he would be invited to discipline them, but I just want him to be a little bit more cognizant of the way, because, my oldest son, you can't discipline him the same way you do,
Right.
the younger one, because the youngest one, he has a little bit more of a tendency to have, spurts of anger and so a little bit, I'm just being honest, but he doesn't handle certain stimuli the same way that my oldest and then my youngest daughter or my oldest daughter. So I would expect for him to be aware or not be more aware of, how he handles each of them. And that's fine with me. I actually would love for somebody to be a
Me too. Me
disciplinarian,
too. All I
especially
gotta do.
especially with the smallest one. Okay.
Right.
But
All
the
I
thing
have to
of
do
it
is
is,
take the
y'all,
electronics away. Just take the
Mhm.
electronics away from my child. That's discipline right there.
Yeah.
That's
But
Yeah.
all
I
you
need
gotta do.
somebody to come
I
in
do
and
that
give
now, Renee. Yeah.
that reinforcement though. You need
Mhm.
some strong reinforcement
Need
from a
some.
male and
Mhm.
Yeah,
for dealing with boys, period.
Yeah.
right.
absolutely.
And I
Mhm.
think that our sons want conversations from
They
men.
do.
I think they want direction. They want guidance. I think they want
Right.
that. I just
You
And
want you
know,
to give
sometimes,
them that in love.
yeah, and
You
that's
know?
what I was
it's
gonna
so
say.
funny
You talk
because
to him how
Yes.
I'm sorry, my son, because my husband is so gentle, you know, I'm the one that's the
You the bad
disciplinarian,
cop.
but he's
You the
the one
bad
that
cop.
talks.
It's usually the mamas.
I'm the bad cop all the time,
Mhm.
and he's the one that talks. But the thing is my son has such a tremendous amount of respect for him because he sees how he treats me, so
Mhm.
he's more apt to listen to him. So all he has to do is talk to him,
Yeah.
and just say, Jaden, But the thing is my son defends my husband more than he defends me, and I'm like, wait a minute. I had you and I changed your dirty diapers. No, just kidding. But yeah, it's a good thing when they that I've seen him grow and that respect grow, and he has that respect for him.
Yeah.
And he does a good job of juggling, and I say juggling because he does take into consideration his father's feelings and all of that. Shouldn't have to, but um, But I think they do a good balancing because his father is more like me, and Elder Sims is the calm one. So I'm glad that he has a balance between the two.
Wonderful.
Well, ladies, this has been a great conversation tonight.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Renee, for being our guest co-host. We will invite you back again. Yay! Well, that is it for us and our show for tonight. But before we go, Deanna, tell us a little bit about our sponsor for tonight.
Thanks, Lady Kim. Need a special piece for an upcoming event? Birthdays, anniversaries, church events, weddings, even for the bride or for any celebration, join Angelica Tarplin, your independent consultant, every
Oh yeah.
every Sunday or Monday live on Facebook at Tracy's Pop Z's Jewelry Parlor, or visit her website at www.paparazzieaccessories.com/369626. If you don't see her face, you are not on her page. All pieces are $5 each, all nickel and lead free, and every necklace comes with a free pair of earrings. You will not be disappointed. Interested in being a guest on our show or advertising your product or service? Email us at contact@comeevolvewithme.com. Charlotte?
Thank you, Deanna. So check us out on our Just Between Us Girls YouTube channel by going to our website at www.comeevolvewithme.com. And we hope that you have enjoyed our show tonight. And we still have that great news to share that we are both live on both Facebook and on YouTube. I have put the link to our YouTube channel in the chat tonight. And also, don't forget to click on the YouTube icon at the bottom of the page on the www.comeevolvewithme.com website. And also subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future shows. So help us to get the word out by sharing this episode on Facebook and YouTube. Janice?
Well, we've come to the segment of our show where we give all of our J-Bug listeners a thought of the day. The thought of the day is courtesy of Daniel Pierce. The most difficult part of dating as a single parent is deciding how much risk your own child's heart is worth. Lady Kim?
Awesome, awesome. What an amazing show on tonight. We'd like to thank you, our J-Bug listeners, for joining in and on our conversation for tonight. Again, thank our virtual co-host, Miss Renee Tarplin, for coming in and doing a guest co-host with us tonight.
Well,
Join us on every Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. for great conversation just between us girls. Good night, everyone.
Good night.